Every week, investors get these reports, right? Highlighting the hottest companies on the market. But sometimes, buried deep in those lists, is a story that's about way more than just numbers. It's a story about a brilliant idea, a sudden crisis, and a really unconventional solution that could totally change how life-saving technology gets funded. So let's pull back the curtain on company number 15. Okay, so this is the Capital Pulse Top 15. It basically tracks the fastest growing companies in what's called regulation crowdfunding. And you see the usual suspects here. You got robotics, agriculture, some consumer goods. But then way down at number 15, you see something that just doesn't seem to fit. EndoSound, a super high-tech medical device company. Seeing it on a list like this, next to coffee and apparel, it just raises a huge question. And that's really the central mystery here. Why would a company with literal life-saving technology turn to the public instead of, the big money venture capitalists? The answer isn't just about one company's balance sheet. It actually reveals a fundamental shift in how innovation gets funded. And it all kicks off with their mission. To really get why they made this choice, you first have to understand what EndoSound is trying to do. See, they aren't just building another medical device. They're trying to fundamentally change who gets access to critical procedures. So endoscopic ultrasound is a critical diagnostic tool, but it's always been super expensive and pretty much confined to major hospitals in big cities. EndoSound's entire mission is to just shatter that model. They want to make the technology affordable enough for a rural hospital, efficient enough for an outpatient surgery center, and accessible to underserved markets all over the globe. It's really about democratizing healthcare, one procedure at a time. And this is not just some business plan on a slide. It has a real human impact. Josh Cohn, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at EndoSound, shared this story about a patient who just could not afford her procedure in a traditional hospital. But because of their tech, she was able to get the exact same care at a more affordable surgical center. That is the mission in action. But that mission, well, it was about to hit a massive wall. Right when they were getting ready to scale up and bring this tech to more people, the entire financial landscape just shifted right under their feet, threatening to stop them cold. This timeline just shows you this dramatic reversal of fortune. EndoSound was a proven success with over $10 million already raised. They were validated, they were ready to scale up with their next big round of funding. And then, poof, the door just slammed shut. The traditional venture capital funding they'd been relying on suddenly became incredibly scarce for companies at their stage. Yeah, this quote from Josh Cohn says it all. It wasn't just them. Things like interest rates and just general market uncertainty created this perfect storm. For a lot of early-stage medical tech companies, the well of venture capital pretty much ran dry. And the consequence of that is stark. When the funding disappears, it's not just a business that's in trouble. It's the innovation itself. Promising, potentially life-saving technologies can just wither and die before they ever get a chance to help a single patient. EndoSound had to find another way. So with the traditional doors closed, they decided to just build a new one. They stopped pitching to a handful of venture capitalists in boardrooms, and instead, they turned to hundreds of people online. They used a mechanism called regulation crowdfunding, or RegCF. And to put it simply, this rule completely changed the game. It allows private companies to raise money from pretty much anyone, not just the wealthiest 1% of investors. So it's a way to democratize not just healthcare, but access to investment opportunities themselves. Their decision really came down to a three-part calculation. First, it was just pure necessity. The VC money was gone. Second, it was about community. They wanted to give the very people who supported them, their users, their colleagues, a chance to own a piece of their success. And third, control. This route let them avoid the often strict and sometimes unfavorable terms that can come with VC funding. So, what was the result of this unconventional bet? Absolutely astonishing. They went to the public on a platform called WeFunder and raised over $800,000. This wasn't just a financial lifeline, it was a massive vote of confidence from the public, proving that people are ready to back serious medical innovation. But who invested is even more telling than how much. This is the really cool part. This wasn't just random people on the internet. A huge portion of their funding came from two key groups: their own users, the doctors literally using the device every single day, and their peers across the medical industry. And this quote, oh man, this is the ultimate seal of approval. Think about it. At nearly half the clinics using their device, the medical staff on the ground have put their own money into the company. They went from customers to owners because they believe in the technology that much. It's just incredible validation. So the success of EndoSound's campaign isn't just a feel-good story for one company. It really points to a much bigger trend that could reshape how we fund our most important innovations. Josh Cohn puts the stakes in very clear terms here. In a world where that traditional capital is getting harder to find, great technologies will die unless they find new ways to get funded. Crowdfunding isn't just a nice-to-have alternative anymore. For many, it's becoming a necessity for survival. So what does this trend really mean for the future of innovation? Well, it means crowdfunding is no longer just for cool gadgets, it's for life-saving tech. It means founders who are outside the traditional Silicon Valley networks can get a fair shot. And maybe most importantly, it empowers you, the public, to invest directly in a future you want to see, which turns customers and supporters into this passionate army of advocates. And that leaves us with a really powerful question. For decades, a very select few held the keys to funding world-changing ideas. But as EndoSound's story shows, that power is finally starting to shift. The next big thing in medicine might not come from a boardroom. It might just come from a crowd of people who believe in a mission and are willing to invest to make it real. People, just like you.